3 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. I can't talk.
Well, good thing we only have to do it for 3 more hours.
I'll be all right. I'll figure it out. We appreciate your time being spent with us today. A lot of baseball to get to. One guest per hour talking NCAA regionals. Our good friend Aaron Fitt is scheduled to be with us at 3:30. Coach Stuart Lake at 4:15. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, 5:15. In between, in fact, in just a minute, I'm going to throw out a poll question. I'm already surprised at the early. Maybe I'm not, but I'm a little surprised.
You're not surprised
At the early results. I am leaning sometimes when I ask a poll question. I'm not leaning in one direction. I am simply gauging fan and audience response. Today, I am leaning in a direction. We'll get into that in just a second for you. Southeastern Conference kickoff times announced for a few ball games. We've been talking about that on the halftime show. Just joined the boys there for a second. If you haven't heard, if you just tuned in, Carolina Old Dominion will be at 4:15. We already knew Kentucky was going to be at 3:30 on national television, and we now know that Carolina LSU will be at noon in week 3 at Williams-Brice. So that's 2. That's really because it'll be warm in Lexington, Kentucky at 3:30 in September, but it's not going to be warm in Columbia, South Carolina.
No,
it's not going to be warm. It's going to be different than warm. That opener,
we're breaking out the H word. That's hot.
That opener's going to be, I'm already going to say, like our buddy Mike Yuba says, mix in a water. Try to mix in like 5. That's just, those games, seriously, man. Those days because I can remember some.
Hydrate.
Back in the day, it'll catch up with you so quick. And by it, I don't mean the heat. The heat.
Tailgating debauchery.
The heat is just a factor in the it. And y'all get it. For those of you that don't have to worry about it, just drink a lot of water and you're good. The rest of you,
it's a universal across the board.
Do your part. But we'll touch on some of those things for you too. NBA, my Dallas Mavericks going for the series win tonight in Minneapolis.
The roadkill.
I think it goes back to Dallas for Game 6. That's what I think.
Yeah. I don't think you're far off there.
Yeah.
Even though Minnesota hasn't particularly played great at home, they've played better on the road in the playoffs.
Well, they won 3 games in Denver
and won both
and one
in Phoenix.
In Dallas and in Phoenix. That's right.
So they are 5-1.
What does that say about them? I don't know.
6-2 on the road in the playoffs.
The Braves lost last night. Spencer Schwellenbach made his major league debut. Did okay.
Not bad.
Did okay.
Not bad.
Except for plunking a dude in the head, which was kind of scary for a second. But other than that, the guy was fine. And Spencer felt bad about it. But, he did all right. Braves just didn't hit yesterday.
No, Mackenzie Gore just pitched better.
Yeah.
10 strikeouts, no walks.
Braves are feeling it right now, man. And that's I'm listen. It happens. It's sports. Braves. Here's the thing. Braves Twitter is getting ready to be like college football Twitter, and you need to back off a little bit, Braves fans.
The college footballing of your perspective on other sports.
But Braves fans, some of them, and look, it's Twitter, right? So I get it, but
nuance and context are
not a reason to panic yet. And like I said, just the World Series winning season should be enough for every Braves fan to go, it's all good. It's all good. Now, there can be a point when you cross certain line or threshold and then you realize, all right, this isn't good. But we haven't gotten to that point yet, in my opinion. So, again, the Acuna news was rough, and you are still trying to fill a starting pitching spot. I get it. But if you can get those big 3 into the postseason, you might be all right.
Yeah.
Really, really 4. I mean, with what Lopez is doing, you got 4.
Lopez is pitching great.
Yeah, you got 4. I mean, you're looking. That's the thing. It's a first world problem that you're looking for a 5th guy. I mean, Lopez was going to be your 5.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. So the Braves need to hit more, man. Braves need to score some runs. Scoring more runs than the other team is how you win games in baseball.
Yeah, I have not. You can't think of an instance in which a team won without scoring.
I mean,
runs.
y'all can check that if you want, but I'm pretty sure that you go out and you score more runs than the other team, you pretty much win every single time.
The stats might surprise you.
So there's that. All right, but I want to go ahead and get the poll question out because we have spent a lot of time. And I don't just mean we, Elijah, and me and this audience, but we that discuss college sports around the country have been talking a lot about the changes that are coming. We knew this House settlement, if it's fully ratified later, if that's the right word, will bring massive change. It will allow schools to spend up to 22% of the average revenue, which right now is a number around $20 million. You don't have to spend it, but you'd be allowed to spend it on paying players. Let's just call it paying players. We can call it a lot of different fancy words. I imagine administrators will not want to call it salary.
They're already hesitating on the employment.
Yeah, and they didn't even when cost of attendance, they didn't even like the word like stipend or anything. Like they just or per diems. It's just cost of attendance. Yeah. And you should. Like I said, let me back up for a second before I ask or get to the poll question. Because I made the point last week. What's the difference in principle with a kid in college on full academic scholarship that also works on campus in whatever capacity? Again, they could be a TA, a lab assistant, an RA. They could work in the library. They could work in the bookstore. They could answer phones in the English department office. Whatever. I don't care.
There's a plethora of jobs that could work on
There's
campus.
tons of kids that work in the athletic department, and again, some of them might be on scholarship. What's the difference in them having a job where they get a check from the university relative to a football player, a basketball player, a baseball player, a swimmer, getting a check from the university for doing their job for the university? What's the difference? And I don't really get an answer other than, well, it's not the way we do it. Those kids can't have a job. I've said this for years, well before you and I were ever working together, Elijah. Listen, man, I remember when I got out of high school, we went to the beach. I say we, like my buddies and I, went to the beach. I came back, and my mother was like, you got a job yet? Not like, you got your class schedule or all that. Like, I knew where I was going to live when school started. You got a job yet? Like that was it. Point is, when I was in school, I could have a job.
Yep.
And my mother made certain that I understood, I'll pay for you to go to school. But whatever else y'all do, that's on you, buddy.
You got a fund.
And football players can't do that. They don't have time. Cross-country runners can't do that. They don't have time. Why shouldn't they get something for that? And again, now, whatever the cost of attendance is, so they can go get a pizza or go bowling every once in a while or some such. But as we've said, inflation has gone up 100% since the SEC expanded in 1991. And revenues into the conference have gone up 1,000% in that same amount of time. So, sharing the revenue with those that generate the revenue is, in my opinion, perfectly acceptable, especially when you consider that they can't go out and get a part-time job during school because they play on a team. So, what's the difference?
I would say sharing that revenue is actually ethically correct.
Yes. But again, I don't get an answer other than that's not the way it's been done. Well, the way it's been done is bleeping legal. So let's remember that too. So I've asked a poll question today, and it stems from a news story that is out that the NCAA is mulling the ability of member schools to place sponsorship advertising logos on the football field. So, like basically, let's just use Williams-Brice as an example. Right now, Williams-Brice has, the big block C in the middle, and then there's 2 SEC logos that are around the 30, right?
Roughly.
Maybe where one of those SEC logos is, you put whatever,
Founders.
Sure. Whoever. Yeah. Somebody local, somebody national, I don't care.
Insert sponsor here.
Yeah, insert sponsor here on where one of those SEC logos is. Or you know what? Maybe on the other 2, like since there's only 2, but you got them on the same yard line on the opposite sides, maybe on the same 30-yard line area, but on the places where it's currently empty, you put a sponsor logo and you still keep your SEC logo. I don't care. Put it in the end zone. I don't care. Whatever. If this is allowed. So that's what I've asked. The NCAA is considering whether or not schools will be allowed to sell space on their football fields to advertisers in order to increase revenue. Would you be in favor of this or other new sources of revenue? And I say, if you have other ideas, leave a reply. But I gave you one other one. So I have 3 choices for you. Yes, you're in favor on the field. Yes, field and uniforms. Or C, no, it's a bad look. I'll give you some results later at jphillips1075 1L if you'd like to vote. I know that Elijah has had the station Twitter feed retweet this, so the 1075 The Game Twitter feed will also have this poll question up. I'm going to let it run through tomorrow afternoon. I'm curious to get more reaction from you guys. If you'd like to hit us with a comment on the Firehouse Subs text line here in the studio, please do. 803-404-6100, up or down, or again, other ways to do this. Look, you're already selling some in-house advertising during games. You sell ads in your program and such. I don't know how many programs they sell anymore relative to what used to be sold. And, do they have like an e-program these days?
I mean, anything that's in a program is available online now.
So,
miss those days. I miss the days of buying a program when you walk.
Yeah, I loved it, man. That was like the first thing you want to do. And I always appreciated the more intrepid program salespersons that would come through the tailgate. You're like, yeah, let me go ahead and get one. I'll go ahead and get one now. Thanks, man. Yeah, those were fun. But at some point, you've got to find a new way, probably, right? Maybe this isn't it. I don't know. And no one understands better than I the traditions of college athletics. But at what point might we have to embrace new ideas? I don't know. Maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we just say the new TV money is enough. But we'll discuss it. But I'd love to hear from you on this. Would you be in favor of this? And it's not done yet. It's not done yet. And I don't even know if they could, can you wave a magic wand right now so that you could start selling this in June and July and have it painted on the field by August? I don't know. If I'm them, again, if there's like the autonomy 4 or 5 or whatever we call them these days, power 4, power 2, wild, wild west, I don't know what it is anymore.
The bloated 4.
Just do it. Don't even wait for permission anymore. Or at least just call Governor Baker in Indy and go, Charlie, how's it going? Like Greg Sankey. Hey, it's Greg. Hey, Greg. Yeah, we're doing that. All right.
Say it's this or we're absorbing the ACC. What do you want, pal? Yeah, right. What's good for the sport?
So hit me up with that. A lot of baseball to get to, more around the SEC meetings. Could Florida State be coming in? Could their rival have anything to do with it? Well, Florida's AD has spoken about that. There's a few other things going on around the Southeastern Conference, including more conference football games. Talk about revenue streams. So we got a lot to get to, plus tons of baseball. 803-404-6100. He's Elijah. I'm Jay. This is the Postgame Show. 19 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you, asking you a poll question today. If you just tuned in, I'll read it again, and I'll go ahead and get you some results, early results. And we are getting a lot of traction on Twitter and on the Firehouse Subs text line. So the question is as follows. The NCAA is considering whether or not schools will be allowed to sell space on their football fields to advertisers in order to increase revenue. Would you be in favor of this or other new sources of revenue? And I did say on the tweet, if you have other ideas, beyond what I've offered, then leave a reply. 3 choices. A, yes, I'm in favor. Yes, on the field. Yes, field and uniforms. Or C, no, it's a bad look. Right now, it's a basic split, and here's how. 50.7 of you, so 50.7 say no, it's a bad look. 25.7% yes on the field. 23.5% yes, field and uniforms. It's interesting, with one exception right now, maybe 2. I feel like we're getting the negative response, and I don't mean like angry or anything, but just the folks that are saying no. Chase says it looks tacky. Already disappointed with Major League Baseball and the NBA filling the jerseys with patches and extra advertisement. Glenn says, I think TV would have the most to say about this. On-field ads that bypass the broadcaster sales department won't be viewed favorably. Of course, they'll probably just blur them out or replace them with graphics. Okay, and here's one that's on the positive side from Aaron, and I'll read more later on. Aaron says, if we want to pay the players and keep the non-revenue sports around, we need new revenue avenues. This seems like a simple way to do that. Yeah, look, first, Glenn, let me take yours. I think there's already agreements in place with television. Television has their ability to sell what they sell. And television at times may be able to put a graphic overlay. Mm. But if you've got signage in the ballpark that is part of, like, the camera shot, that's okay. Especially, let's think about basketball.
It's usually accepted.
Yeah, you think about like the scorer's table board at a basketball game that has a rotate. Here in Columbia, they got Bojangles and Founders and whatever else, and that gets on TV all the time. Bojangles is getting extra love there. But here's the catch on that. Certain schools, let's say Kentucky, that sells for a lot more at Rupp Arena. Not only for the in-house, but because they know that will be seen on national television a lot more than, say, the Hump in Starkville.
Yep, like 25 times.
Or CLA. Mm-hmm. So, there's that part of it. Look, Chase, looks tacky.
Some of them
it depends on depends on the ad. And look, schools can say to a certain sponsor, hey, we don't want some outlandish thing on our field here. All right. And you can say no.
Right.
You could line them up. Now, if somebody offers you something ridiculous, but you got to put something ridiculous on your field, then, your athletic director and your president may have some difficult choices to make.
Like what's the price of a Cialis ad, at the 50-yard line? It'd take a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't, and
it would take a lot of money.
And you're not selling 50-yard line. You're selling a small spot. Like we said, imagine, my feeling is it would be something similar to the conference logo in terms of size and location on the field.
Yeah.
That we currently see across conferences.
Or a sideline, maybe? Maybe. Around one part of the sideline.
Maybe.
And to Chase's point, some of them are tacky. I've seen some really bad ones, but there are some that blend in pretty nicely. I think, the San Diego Padres having the Motorola on the sleeve, almost don't even notice it. Because it's the logo itself is brown. It matches with the uniform. The Celtics had a General Electric. They had that sponsorship on their logo. Mm-hmm. It was just a patch, but it was green. It almost blended in.
The Braves don't right now. The Braves have Quick Read. And it stands out. That yellow stands out off the Braves sleeve.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine Quikrete is paying the Braves a lot of money because, and again, I know I'm a fan, but they're the Braves. You know, and who's got the Yankees? Who's got the Dodgers?
Yeah, and some of them can be done well, some of them can be done poorly. I'm not going to lie. I think the Bumble advertisement on the Los Angeles Clippers jerseys a few years ago looked incredibly tacky. I also might be saying that because I think the Los Angeles Clippers are tacky, but I did think that one wasn't a good match, and no pun intended. But in terms of advertiser and jersey, and I didn't think that one looked particularly well. And that's where you have to have some creative brain trust in here to be able to make that work.
Justin says not the field or uniforms, but ad space can be utilized in other areas. The Allstate field goal net sponsorship doesn't bother anyone. Have ads on the goalpost wrapping, the pylons where it's visible but not thrown in your face. Well, Justin, Allstate's been doing that for
ages.
I don't even know how long. It just feels like part of the game. Mm-hmm. At least 20 years, right?
It actually might feel weird if that advertisement wasn't there.
But you've got to have it to some degree. I mean, I know what you mean, Justin, but to some degree, you kind of have to have it, quote, in your face. You don't want it, again, just, bleh. I get it.
Yeah, nothing outlandish.
But it does. But it does have to be seen. I mean, if it blends so well that it becomes camouflaged, then what is the sponsor paying for? And that would be something that you'd have to do. Look, I'm a big soccer fan. I was telling Elijah earlier, and I know you're not as big a soccer fan as I am, but you watch some EPL, but I mean, for generation upon generation, a sponsor has been on the front of a soccer jersey across all of Europe, South America, and like Japan in their league, in the J League. It's just routine. You don't even, again, when I say you don't think about it, like you see it, but it's just part of it.
Right.
And so that's why when the NBA decided, I was like, this is not a bad thing. And the NBAs are tiny, man. Yeah. It's basically on the other side of like the Nike logo or whoever makes the NBA jerseys these days. And the same thing with baseball. Again, it's just a patch on the sleeve. It's not, it's there and you see it. But it's not so in your face. I mean, they're not doing, listen, I don't think anything in it, like for instance, on a Gamecock football uniform where it says Carolina or Gamecocks, it's not going to suddenly say, again, Bojangles.
Right.
Or Jim Hudson Ford. It's not, they're not going to do what soccer does. And MLS does it now too and has shirt sponsors. I mean, that's part of that sport. And it works quite well and they make a lot of money. And the more popular your team is, the more you can sell that space for, if you will. And I told you literally it's part of the fabric. It's both figurative and literal.
Yes.
In the sport of soccer. It's very, 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 very much a part of NASCAR. It's very much a part of golf. NASCAR especially, man.
That's all it is.
I mean, how many of you, how many of you in this part of the world love you some college football and love you some NASCAR? Just saying.
That's all it is advertising.
It works for NASCAR. And you won't see college uniforms turned into that or college football fields turned into that.
One really good question that we did get on the text line, unnamed texter did ask if players would get a cut of the revenue if a patch is on the uniforms. More than likely, yes. All revenue streams end up being shared with the players now. So that's not far-fetched at all. And anything, I'd say that's more likely.
I have a bonus solution to that. If there's a patch that everybody has to wear on the uniform, let the player sell like a sticker on the back of their helmet. Let them, if you're whoever, I'm not even going to say a player right now. If you're a big name player at Big State U, maybe you get some NIL leeway with that.
Or just, if these schools have, let's use Motorola, for example. Say South Carolina and Motorola reach this hypothetical deal where they get to put patches on, just like the left shoulder pad or something like that, right? But part of that deal is that certain players or the whole team gets an NIL deal with Motorola as well.
I think that's what this money should be earmarked for, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of this will end up going to the players because these schools
that's what I would do.
Having to pay for a settlement in a lawsuit. This is going to help keep everything afloat.
You need new revenue for this reason. Let the new revenue stream be what helps you get it. You won't make $20 million off this at South Carolina, but you can get a long way toward it, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about it. Hit us up, 803-404-6100 on the Firehouse subtext line. Hit us on Twitter. Vote on the poll. We'll come back around to it. But on the other side of the break, some national perspective on the NCAA baseball tournament. It gets underway tomorrow all across the country. Our good friend Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball will give us his version of the preview when the postgame show continues. Time to talk some college baseball. The NCAA tournament gets underway tomorrow all across the country. The Gamecocks will be in Raleigh, James Madison, and Carolina at 2 o'clock. We'll have it for you right here starting at 1:45. And, of course, the Clemson Regional has Coastal up there with Vandy making another return to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. We'll get into all of that and more for you throughout the day. Again, a little bit later on, Jack Veltri and Stuart Lake will join us from Raleigh. But right now, our good friend Aaron Fitt, kind enough. I know he's sleeping a little bit, I would think, but probably not a whole lot. How are you, sir? This is the best time of the year for you, right?
Yeah, this is the fun part. Especially now we got all of our preview content finished. If you go to d1baseball.com, you can read breakdowns out of all the 16 regionals. Now it's just time for baseball, man. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I enjoyed, in fact, I've watched it twice. I watched it a little bit yesterday and then more today, the preview that you guys all did, and that was a lot of fun. I will say this much, too. You guys had as much fun for a few minutes talking about Fenwick Trimble as Elijah and I did yesterday. I said, I think that was the site of the 1948 British Open. You called him Lord Fenwick, I think it was, or something like that. That was pretty good. But the truth of the matter is, this is a pretty good ball player that JMU has going against Carolina tomorrow.
Yeah, he is. He's super physical. He's got real power, and I saw him quite a bit last summer on the Cape Cod League, and against good players, and he's a performer. He's battle tested. He's their best player for sure. But this team does have power. Beyond just Trimble. That's kind of their strength. I would say their carrying tool as a club is a bunch of guys that can hit the ball out of the park. Now they play in an offensive yard in an offensive conference, but heck, the same goes for pretty much everyone in the ACC and SEC. It's, offense just rules the day these days. But between Trimble and Jason Chavone, their catcher, and, Mike Mancini and Brenner O'Donnell, they got some guys that can drive the ball out of the park. And you got a pretty decent, I think, number one guy in Donovan Burke, who's going to compete and give him a shot. So, I don't think they're one of the stronger 3 seeds. I didn't think probably that they should have gotten in, frankly, compared to some of their bubble teams. But they had a solid year, and they played a very good schedule. So that they're battle tested. So they got that going for them.
Yeah, Fenwick Trimble also sounds like the name of someone who tried to fix the 1919 World Series. It fits a lot of different things here. But, James Madison, 3 seed. There are a lot of other 3 seeds in this tournament that I look at that I think could be dangerous. And when you look at just the group of 3s and 4s, Aaron, do you see a team that can maybe pull off maybe an unexpected run, kind of the same way that Oral Roberts did last season by making it to Omaha, or maybe really scaring the hell out of somebody in a Supers?
I don't think I see a 4 seed like that this year. It's the one that jumps out to me, I guess, is Grand Canyon. It's a team that won its league by 5 games, I think, and they only got into a regional technicality because the team that won the conference tournament out there was not eligible for regional yet because they're still transitioning to Division I. So it defaulted to the regular season champ, which is Grand Canyon. So they got kind of a break there. But that said, it's a team that has some experience and some talent and some pedigree. They feel to me like the most dangerous 4 seed, but it doesn't feel like an Omaha kind of a 4 seed. So there's some 3 seeds out there that certainly. You look at Texas, you look at Florida. Some of these name brand 3 seeds scattered around. I think Kansas State, I don't love their draw going to Fayetteville, but I think that's a team that's very, high in talent. They got lots of it and just don't necessarily have the depth on the mound, but if their high-end guys perform, I could see them making a run. So there's a few of these scattered around that have that kind of pedigree that you look for in a 3 seed. Maybe Indiana comes to mind. They were almost a preseason top 25 team for us, but again, you're going to Knoxville, so Godspeed.
Aaron, you and I were texting back and forth earlier this week about some of the regionals you'll be covering not too far from where you are. One of them could be East Carolina hosting Wake Forest, VCU, and Evansville. And obviously ECU will see Evansville first. Wake will take on Virginia Commonwealth. But we're looking at Wake Forest as one of the better 2s, especially because of their pitching. Is ECU looking around going, you sent us them? Really?
Yeah.
How are they feeling about this draw?
I mean, I'm sure they're saying they feel great. And, ECU is one of those programs, a classic kind of a chip on their shoulder program. I mean, they feel like they don't get the kind of respect nationally that they deserve because they're not in, the ACC or the SEC. And now I think a lot of people are sleeping on them, and people like me have been out here saying, well, I'm kind of surprised they hosted, after the way they finished the year and their RPI dropped some. But, I mean, it's a great team. I mean, I think when they're healthy, East Carolina is one of the 8 best teams in the country, but there's significant question marks around the health of their top 3 arms, and to me, that's maybe another reason they probably shouldn't have hosted, frankly, but they are hosting. We'll see. I don't know what to expect from those arms. I do know that Wake Forest is finally healthier than they've really been all year. I mean, I think Wake is very scary as a 2 seed, and it sounds like they're going to save Chase Burns for Saturday night. I assume East Carolina will do the same, most likely with its ace, Trey Savage. I mean, those are 2 of the 3 best pitchers in America, along with Hagen Smith, and they're going to be going head-to-head most likely on Saturday night if those teams can win their openers. So that is awfully intriguing.
And speaking of regional hosts who are probably looking around like, what the hell, man? I think Chapel Hill might have a similar gripe getting LSU coming into their place. Especially considering they were non-existent for most of the year, and then sweep Ole Miss, do what they did in Hoover, and now they're coming in Chapel Hill on one of the hottest teams in college baseball right now. How big of a threat do you think LSU is to pulling off a shocker there at North Carolina?
Yeah, talk about scary 2 seeds. I mean, hey, East Carolina was the 16 seed, so it makes sense that they get one of the stronger 2 seeds. But I was surprised that North Carolina, as the number 4 national seed, a team that won the ACC by a couple of games, congratulations. Your reward is you get the defending national champions coming in on a heater. As your 2 seed. Like good luck with that. It's a very interesting matchup. I think North Carolina is an extremely complete team. And I didn't think that for a lot of the season. I was concerned about their pitching, but they lost 2 Friday night starters to injury, and they've just kept on trucking. They got a really good bullpen. They figured out the rotation. Their position player group is elite. For me, they feel like one of the leading contenders to win it all, but can they get out of their own regional? I mean, LSU's got the advantage probably on the mound the first 2 days with Gage Jump, and then you'll probably have Luke Holman, a first-round pick, to be going against the Tar Heels on Saturday night if that thing plays out the way we expect. So that's definitely a challenge for UNC, and right now it's LSU just has that feeling about them. It feels like they figured it out. It feels like Ole Miss a couple of years ago when they won it all, or both teams were kind of buried. They were I think they were both 3-12 in the SEC at one point, and then they make these runs. And once they figure it out, they make these runs. It's a kind of a terrifying thing. They kind of got that freight train feeling about them. So that one it definitely got my eye on this weekend.
Aaron, let's go up to Clemson real quick. Vandy there again. Coastal is there, as we mentioned. And I know there were a lot of folks around the country that felt like maybe because Matt Hogue was the chair of the selection committee, that even if he wasn't in the room, as your colleague Mark Etheridge said, well, eventually they come back, which I thought was Mark's best line of the day on a podcast y'all did a couple of days ago. But they are there, and Chad Holbrook's Charleston team is not. I want you to kind of go there first. This can't simply be about the committee trying to choose 2 teams that are 2 hours apart on the South Carolina coast, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. This happens every year. I mean, for the last 20 years I've been doing this, it's happened every year. People who you got a guy on the committee, you're going to get the break almost every time. And this year there were 6 cases where you had a team that was on the bubble for either a host or a top 8 seed or an at-large spot, and they had representation on the committee, and all 6 of them got their way. And I just, if you look at the season that College of Charleston had versus the season that Coastal Carolina had, I mean, Charleston had a banner year. They won a good league, that had a couple of teams inside the top 3 teams inside the top 15 RPI. They won that league pretty comfortably. They made the finals of the conference tournament. They had a poor non-conference strength of schedule rating because of 3 games against, Youngstown State that they swept in February. That kind of artificially deflated their strength of schedule, but they kind of overcame that. They still finished, 42 in the RPI. I think a conference champion that finishes 42 in the RPI and reaches their conference title game and loses it on, your opponent's home field, it's played at Wilmington. Yeah. They deserve to get in. I mean, and you compare that to, Coastal Carolina that finished 7th place in their league and was just very uninspired the entire second half, just a lackluster finish to the year. They kind of have a lifeless 1-2 showing in the conference tournament, and doesn't matter because they got a guy on the committee. I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, guys, but we see it every year.
Real quick, a little bit less than a minute here for you. Your biggest concern for South Carolina and your biggest positive for South Carolina?
Well, I love the way they played last week, and certainly you didn't love the way they played against Georgia, but the fact that they were able to figure it out and bounce back and play well, I mean, I don't know. It feels like a team that maybe will be freed up going on the road as a 2 seed, not having to worry about the pressure of hosting at home. I mean, I think NC State's good, but wouldn't shock me at all. South Carolina goes in there and wins that thing, especially the way it feels like they've kind of figured out the way the pieces fit on the mound. I know you don't have workhorse starters that you can lean on, give you a ton of length, but I really like the bullpen. And the same goes for NC State. I feel like the bullpen is the strength of that staff too. So that to me is what's fascinating about this regional is those two teams get together a couple of times, kind of the battle of the bullpen. That's what I got my eye on.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. We appreciate all the time you give us throughout the course of this season. We'll be following along, and we'll talk to you down the road. Appreciate it. Have fun this weekend.
All right, fellas. See ya.
You bet. That is Aaron Fitt, D1Baseball.com. Aaron Fitt to follow on Twitter. We'll follow up with what he had to say coming up. Welcome back into the post-game show on this, I'm going to say Friday afternoon. I don't know why. Thursday afternoon.
It's like Friday-ish.
It feels like a Friday because I feel like tomorrow almost feels like it's going to be Saturday. Not because we don't have a show, but it just with the anticipation of such a big game coming.
Tournament baseball.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. See, I'd rather say playoff baseball, but, I get hollered at
It's the tournament,
with college people because it's a tournament. I'm like, well, all playoffs are technically tournaments.
They are. This helps me distinguish in my head playoff, tournament, college, pro.
I just like saying the word playoffs, especially in baseball. Just feels right.
I just feel like Jim Mora. So I'll stick with
Playoffs?
tournament. Yeah.
Playoffs? Appreciate Aaron Fitt's time. He really is just one. And y'all should, if you want some good in-depth stuff, like he said, you can go to d1baseball.com, but go to their YouTube channel and check out this week's podcasts. They've done excellent work breaking down all of this and getting you some players, some pitchers, a few, different things about certain ballparks and just how things could shake out. I like that you asked him about 3 and 4 seeds. I was kind of bummed that he didn't give us one that he thought had a real opportunity. Like, for instance, Army has now, I know they're going to Athens. This is Army's 6th consecutive trip. Like, they're used to it as a 4 seed. I'm not saying that means they're going to make it out of the Athens regional.
Oh, Jay says Army to Omaha. Written down right here.
And you mentioned, obviously, Oral Roberts made it last year. We heard about Grand Canyon.
They're back in it this year.
Yeah.
They're in Norman.
I think St. John's is good, and I know St. John's has a couple of really good players. Apparently they have like a big, giant lumberjack of a pitcher who intimidates people on the hill. So something for Mississippi State to think about tomorrow. And again, I know Florida got in by the skin of their teeth, as Skip Carey would have once said. But kind of like, and I know Florida got beat last week on day 1 by Vandy.
Got one and done.
That was good for Carolina. That was bad for Florida, we thought, potentially, but Florida made it in. And again, we were told number 1 strength of schedule got Florida into the tournament. If I'm Nebraska, I'm not scared of Florida per se, but I am going, man, really?
Jack Caglione's coming to town.
Good
ball player.
I can see Florida and Kevin O'Sullivan, fresh start and all that kind of stuff and going, all right, we're good. Boys, here we go. And I don't know how good Nebraska is. If you win the Big Ten, I think you're probably pretty good.
You're not bad.
But it's hard to say some. Yeah, it's just hard to say some years with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, and I'll tell you, here's the thing. I think a lot of Big Ten schools, not all of them, but a lot of them do spend a lot of money on hockey, where a lot of Southern schools spend money on baseball. Like Ohio State, Michigan State, Minnesota,
they're powerhouses.
Wisconsin. Yeah, they spend a lot of money on hockey, and there's only so much money to go around. I have often wondered if Ohio State actually gave a darn, how good would they be at college baseball?
It's impressive they've given a darn enough to make them good in hockey. They're not going to win a national title, but they are consistently competing with teams like Michigan State and Michigan and Minnesota, who are perennial, I don't say powerhouses, but they're perennial top 10 teams every year in that sport. And
how good's Wisconsin? Wisconsin's good, right?
Wisconsin's always pretty good. Yeah, exactly. And almost all the the normal schools in the Northeast are pretty solid. But the fact that Ohio State even competes relatively in that group, I mean, that shows exactly Ohio State's, athletic department capabilities when they really do start putting their money where their mouth is. And so these certain sports, if they did it to baseball, they could be really good at baseball.
We're not going to find out that Ohio State just brings the Blue Jackets in and puts Buckeye uniforms on them, are they?
Well, what's the really funny thing is? No one would notice in Columbus if they did. Not a soul would understand, would be able to spot Zach Werenski in an Ohio State jersey.
How... Again, I'll say this too, and I realize that it's a little colder up there. But mentioning Wisconsin, just apropos of nothing we've been discussing. But how does Milwaukee not have an NHL team? I just don't understand that.
They have probably the most profitable minor league team.
Yeah, but why? I mean, seriously, Columbus, Dallas, Tampa, Phoenix, now Salt Lake, Raleigh, and I'm not saying these teams don't deserve one.
Right.
But how does Milwaukee not have an NHL team? It just doesn't make sense to me, man. Like, I don't get that. Columbus?
Atlanta twice.
Right. But not Milwaukee? And they don't like the Blackhawks, do they? They don't like drive south and go to Chicago games. I don't know.
Go Admirals, I guess.
We'll come back around with the poll question and Coach Stuart Lake coming up at 4:15. Be right back. You know, keeping your money in the Midlands is a good thing for investment purposes, just for feel-good purposes, or anything else that you're doing. And that's exactly what happens when you bank with Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Unlike the big banks, when you save with Palmetto Citizens, it stays right here. They don't pay stockholders. They don't loan out of state. Your dollars help support neighbors, local businesses, and local charities as well. So whether it's checking, savings, credit cards, student loans, car loans, equity lines, mortgages, anything you need, even, getting a loan to take the family on that dream vacation you've all wanted to do, whatever your needs are, check out palmettocitizens.org and learn how they can get you the loan you need with lower rates and fewer fees. Or again, your checking and savings, same thing, lower rates, fewer fees. That means more money in your pocket. My wife and I are customers. We use the Millwood branch. They've got 14 branches all across the Midlands. Check them out at Palmetto Citizens and achieve your potential. 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the postgame show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you for being with us. Thanks again to our buddy Aaron Fitt, D1 Baseball National Writer, for joining us in the last half hour, discussing a little bit on the Gamecocks, a little bit on the Clemson Regional, and a few of his national thoughts. And again, I urge you, if you're interested in this tournament from an overall perspective, go to their YouTube channel, D1 Baseball. Punch up the latest podcast, or you can get it wherever you get your podcast, as you hear on advertising all over the country all the time, wherever you get your podcasts. But they've got a good one. A lot of good stuff in there with Aaron. Mark wasn't on the latest one. It was Kendall and Joe Healy and Mike Rooney. But I guess Mark was too busy after being on the halftime show yesterday.
That's right. Well, he had bigger and better obligations.
I think Tyler and Terry just wore him out. He needed a nap.
He said, "I'm done. I'm done for
these guys."
After putting up with that, I'm done.
I'm done. But looking forward to it. And again, tomorrow, 1:45 airtime, 2 o'clock, first pitch, two-ish, Gamecocks and the Dukes of James Madison. And we'll have more on that coming up for you in just a little bit. Coach Stuart Lake will be with us in just a few minutes' time. Stuart will be on the call with Derek. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, Jack Veltri on the ground. He was covering Mark Kingston's press conference earlier today. So we'll get the latest from Jack on what the pitching looks like. We do know, of course, as was anticipated and has now been made official, Gavin Costas is done for the season with the broken hamate bone, having surgery. That's a tough blow, but one you knew this weekend you were going to have to absorb. I suppose there was maybe the hope that hey, if you could find a way to advance, which I think is very doable, maybe Gavin could be back. But the docs said,
No, that one requires. Well, I believe the hamate fracture does require surgery. I'm not a doctor. Don't quote me on that. But I know other previous instances of that injury in the major leagues. I know Mike Trout had to have surgery to repair his.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it does, and if that's the case, that's usually the kiss of death for a season.
Yeah, well, I believe he had it this morning. I think they went ahead and said, you know what, we're fixing it right now. So that's it. Yeah, it's a tough blow, man. He's a veteran guy. He knows what's up. Got to find a way.
Good career here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, many years ago, win anyway became the mantra of the baseball program. With injuries or whatever else was going on, win anyway. And they found ways to win anyway. I see no reason why that can't be applied right now. Again, a lot more baseball to discuss in just a little bit. Very lively discussion for part of the first hour on today's poll question. Let me get back to that for those of you who have just joined us. Here's the poll question. The NCAA is considering whether or not schools will be allowed to sell space on their football fields to advertisers in order to increase revenue. Would you be in favor of this or other new sources of revenue? A, yes, on the field. B, yes, field and uniforms. C, no, it's a bad look. Still roughly a 50-50 split. 51.2 say no, they don't like it. 27.3 yes on the field. 21.5 yes, field and uniforms. And we've asked you to hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line and leave a reply on Twitter. Gotten a couple of hits since we were talking to Aaron. Cooper says, do whatever. It's a proposal now. Might as well be like NASCAR. Maybe he heard us say that at the end of the segment.
Making that parallel.
Yeah, well, and like I said, how many of you love NASCAR and how many of you love college football? Around here, I know that, to use the term we use a lot, the Venn diagram crossover is probably pretty large. And NASCAR, I mean, everybody's uniform and every car littered with sponsorship decals. And I'm not against it. That's been their business for the whole time.
That's how they make money.
Right?
That's how they make a lot of money.
The whole time. I'm old. I am not a huge NASCAR fan, but I follow enough, and I have for long enough. But the only thing that's different are the people driving the cars, and the cars are newer. But in terms of the sport and how it's run, yeah. Again, golf. I mean, golfers, you got Titleist on the front of the hat, and you got, whatever, NetJets and Nike and you name it, man. MasterCard, their golfers are covered in logos. Now, you may say to yourself, that's professional. I want you to read the text we got. And we're not gonna pick on this guy. I think he's texted us before. But there was one that I take a little issue with, and I'll explain why.
This is the one from J-Mac, our friend J-Mac says, boys, it's time to bury the term college athletics and call it what it is now, pro sports. Sad to see.
Why is it sad? I'm having a hard time with that. As a 53-year-old who has grown up in the South with college football as a part of my life, I struggle with why it's sad. It's different. But why is it sad? And has it, and again, players have always technically been compensated, yes?
In a way, one way or another.
So, I mean, they're not pros. I get it. Are they really amateurs either? Like, what, amateur probably stops at high school these days unless you're, playing at like D3 or NAIA.
Yeah, true amateur.
But like you said, going back to before you were born, I mean, really, I think in terms of big-time sports that were called, quote, amateur, that went away in the 80s. Maybe before.
When schools are suing for the TV rights, or TV revenue, I think that kind of is an indication that they're making so much money, or they can make so much money, that we've kind of gone beyond.
Well, I remember
pure amateurism.
I remember how big a deal it was when the Olympics, the International Olympic Committee, finally said, okay, it's open now to athletes, not just, quote, amateur athletes. And one of the big pushes for that, in all seriousness, man, was the domination of the Soviet hockey team. Because those dudes, yes, they were, quote, amateur athletes. They were officially members of the Russian army, the Soviet army. Mm-hmm. We know how great they were. And nobody's dogging them. We know how great they were.
They're a machine.
And that was one of the things. But, like, there were certain, some guys, Daley Thompson from England who won the decathlon twice, Edwin Moses, like those guys were like, I'm really good at this. I want to make some money. Yeah, I want to keep winning.
Continue to do
this.
this.
I want to keep winning gold medals, but I wonder how much a guy like Daley Thompson didn't make in the 80s. I mean, you win the decathlon twice. Like, Bruce Jenner was on the cover of the Wheaties box.
Yep.
But Bruce Jenner quit, man. You know why? Because he could make a lot of money.
Doing anything other than Olympic sports.
I mean, Mary Lou Retton didn't go back for the, second round of the Olympics. She got on the Wheaties box, and she started being Mary Lou Retton and making money. And the same thing, like I said, I keep coming back to this, and I for those of you who've never heard me say it, I want you to hear it. For those who've heard me say it a bunch, I hope you understand why I'm using it. I go back, not just because it's South Carolina, but I just go back to when the SEC expanded in the early 90s. Since then, inflation in the United States has gone up roughly 100%. Revenues into the Southeastern Conference have gone up at roughly 1,000%. I've done the math. I'm not good at math, but I've told Elijah before, and any of you who've listened to me a long time, when Jay Phillips goes in and does some math, it's because he's serious about the subject he's talking about. And I am serious about that because I bleeping hate math.
You avoid it like the plague.
But I've done the math. And there's nothing wrong with sharing 20% of that 1,000% increase with the young men and women who are generating the revenue. Yes, it's primarily football and men's basketball across the country. I get that. But again, the cross-country team, the tennis team, the softball team, they dedicate their time to their team and their sport and their school just as much as a football player or a basketball player. Why shouldn't they all share in it? And the answer is they should. There isn't a bad answer here. They can't go out and work at a restaurant on the weekends. They can't deliver pizza for Domino's.
Because you want to talk about rules that are violated, the hour limit in which you can be active in your sport that the NCAA has put on these athletes absolutely gets violated by everybody.
Oh, hell yeah.
By everybody.
And that's the amount of time that you would typically go work. When I was in college, I probably worked like 25 hours a week part-time. I can't have a full-time job. And you do want to live your life as a college student. You want to be able, but, So J-Mac, look, man, I don't know how old J-Mac is. He's texted us before, and I know he has a love for college sports. It is different. But I don't think it's sad. I think it's a natural evolution of the free market. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, what you've been doing to suppress the rights of free Americans within the structure of the NCAA has been deemed not just illegal, but grossly illegal by the federal courts. Just it's been, again, they're like, wait, you've been doing what? That's what the courts have said. So here we are with a massive overcorrection until it ultimately, like most markets, stabilizes. But in terms of this, look, you need new revenue streams. Now, listen, fans, and not just Carolina fans, but I'm talking primarily to you because that's who I talk to primarily in this audience. There's a lot of people out there across the Southeastern Conference, let's say, Big Ten. Man, I already pay my booster club dues. And I already buy, T-shirts and hats, and now they want me to give to a collective. I don't have enough money to do all that. Amen.
Fair point. Absolutely.
I'm here to support you on that. But guess what? Your school's going to need more money. This is a way. A logo on the field, a logo on the sleeve, a logo on the back of the helmet, whether it's the football helmet, the batting helmet, the swim cap. I don't care. The golf cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you need new streams of revenue to be able to do this because the alternative is that you won't do this. And this comes back around to another thing I've said before, Elijah. You can't, and now I am talking to Carolina fans and maybe Mississippi State fans and a few others
Arkansas.
like that. You can't have Southeastern Conference success at Conference USA prices. Mm-hmm. It will not work, period. There's no but. There's no what if. There isn't any.
You got to do what the big boys are doing, like your Alabamas, your Georgias, in terms of spending, trying to get more, and wherever you can get revenue, because that's how you're going to be able to.
And if that's something that turns you off and you don't want to be a part of it anymore, I understand that too. I think most of you will continue to watch on television, even if you don't go to games as often. And I understand that people are less and less going to games, and that schools are, working hard to make the ballpark experience, the arena experience a better time for you and your family. But if you want to pay for all this, because listen, this is happening. NIL is happening. This $20 million a year-ish is happening. It's not, well, what if they, now, again, there is no what if anymore. This is happening. And schools have a choice. Play with the big boys like you've been, or don't. I see no option C in the middle. Do it, don't do it. But I think the schools that can should go ahead and do this now. Seriously.
Oh, like you said, your South Carolinas, your Arkansas, your Mississippi States, the ones who maybe are on the lower half of the SEC in terms of revenue. You still make a ton of money, but compared to especially Texas and Oklahoma that are coming in, Texas, the second most profitable athletic department in the country, you got to compete with them now too. Whatever way you can do it is the way to do it. And especially if it doesn't involve asking your fans and begging your fans for money, right?
And yes, Texas and Alabama and Florida will also sell the same space on their field and generate revenue with it, but
that's even further incentive to do it.
Yeah. 803-404-6100. Hit us up on the Firehouse Subs text line. Hit us on Twitter. Vote on the poll. We'll come back around to it in just a little bit. Stuart Lake, though, on the other side. Coach will join us, give us his take on Carolina's chances this weekend in Raleigh. Be right back.
We are barreling towards the final round in both the basketball and the hockey playoffs, which means there's no better time to get in on this action than with our friends over at Prize Picks. Look, it's America's #1 fantasy sports app, and it's incredibly easy to play. Very simple premise. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. For the basketball game tonight, look, I love role players at home in playoff games, which means I am very high on someone like Jaden McDaniels to maybe score more than 12 and a half points, or for Naz Reid to score more than 11 points. You can hop in on that too. Just do 2 to 6 player projections, and you can win up to 100 times your money. All you got to do to get on this, to get in on this promo is just download the app, use promo code 1075game. You can get a first deposit match up to $100. It's promo code 1075game. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy with our friends at Prize Picks.
Twenty minutes after 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Happy to be joined on the guest line now by Coach Stuart Lake. He and Derek Scott will be on the call this weekend as the Gamecocks start play in the NCAA tournament tomorrow afternoon against James Madison. Coach, always appreciate you. I'll start you with a question that I've asked several of our guests this week that cover this team in whatever capacity. How surprised were you at the run Carolina made last week in Hoover relative to the way they finished the regular season?
Well, I don't know if I would use the word surprise. I know going in, and they're a team that I felt all year when they kind of got cornered, played their best baseball. And I know going into that tournament last week, we were all hoping that you didn't have to win a game and still make it, but you certainly knew if you won a game, you'd feel a lot better about it. So I just think that, and I know they have from talking to them and the players and the coaches, learned a lot about themselves and went through last week what can really help you going into a regional setting this weekend.
Let's go to this weekend now, and we do know Eli Jones will start. So let me go there for you. Pitching had to be last week a little all over the place, and we weren't sure what Mark and Matt might choose. Good decision to go with the guy that you know you've done it before with?
I am. I was excited when it was announced because Eli, you probably figured it out listening to me on the radio, as a guy that I really think the world of and think has tremendous makeup. And when you start a regional, it doesn't matter who you play, and you need a guy out there that can handle that emotion of it and what it means. So I think a good decision to go with Eli right out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be one of the hardest things, I guess, in a regional when you're comparing it to the situation you were in back in Hoover, where the season is not on the line, but it is in a really weird way. Now it actually is. Yeah. Now we're getting to the point where we're playing like there's no tomorrow because there is none. As you know, putting your coaching hat on, what's, I guess, maybe the key in terms of managing your arms and having to play certain players in certain games in such a short turnaround too?
Yeah, and you know what? They learned a lot about that last week. Obviously, if you can stay in that winner's bracket, you certainly feel a lot better about your arms and how you can use Ty Goods and different guys obviously come out of that bullpen. But I just think the thing's going to be if we continue offensively, when the way they were scoring runs last week surely helped your mindset over there as a Coach Williams or Coach Kingston trying to decide who to go with, because you felt like you could just stay in every game offensively. So I think that's going to be the key to how you do get to use your pitching this weekend is, can we maintain what we started last week in Hoover?
Well, and on that note, Stuart, and I was joking with with Elijah earlier, sorry. With Elijah earlier.
Close.
That's all right. Derek calls me
I got Eli Jones on the brain here. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's close, right?
Elijah Jones.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing. I apologize. But I was joking and said, most often, Stuart, the team that scores more runs wins the game. But in this case, is Carolina going to have to become a team that outslugs people? So, obviously we know how you win a ball game, but you lost 11-10 and 12-11 last week. Can Carolina flip that script? Can they be that guy?
Well, I still think the offense can do it. I got to really believe defensively we'll shore up a few of those issues that kind of created some of those situations. I know they've worked hard on it since then, and we'll see how that kind of goes. But I really do think if Austin Brandling and Blake Jackson keep getting on base, and you got them, Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina still get pitched to. And that's what was so key, I thought, last week out at Hoover is those two guys just would refuse not to get on base, either hit by pitch or a walk or whatever. So I really think that's going to be the key of how much can Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina get to do with those two guys trying to set the table.
There was a lot that South Carolina did in Hoover that I thought was really promising and really encouraging. But what wasn't encouraging was the 12 errors that were counted in the 5 games. You probably could have counted 13 or 14. And you're playing a team in James Madison tomorrow that, if anything, puts the ball in play a lot because they don't strike out a lot. I think they're the second fewest in the Sun Belt, and they drew they didn't draw a ton of walks at all. They're always putting the ball in play. Yeah. So given what we saw in Hoover, given the scouting report of this Dukes team tomorrow, how concerned are you that mistakes in the field might be biting them in the rear whenever it comes down to the final innings?
Yeah, when trying to just talk to people, get a kind of a scouting report, if you will, on James Madison, they're probably going to play a lot like a Kentucky. They've got 100 stolen bases. But they still got 84 home runs. It was, talking to some coaches from that league, they were like, they're going to bunt, they're going to steal, but they're also going to hit the home run. So they're definitely a team, as you said, Elijah, going to put the ball in play. I'm going to go with the optimist version here. 2 o'clock game. I said this to a few people this week. The environment that we played in last week certainly helps you to prepare for a regional environment. There was 13,000 people at that game last weekend. That's not the easiest thing to learn how to adapt to. Now come back into an environment that I know will be loud for Raleigh, but it's certainly not going to be those numbers. I think we'll do well with the defense.
Talking to Stuart Lake, he and Derek on the call tomorrow. Again, 1:45 airtime, 2 o'clock or so, first pitch, Carolina and James Madison. We do now know that Gavin Casas is done for the season, had surgery today. We had been told earlier in the week that was a distinct possibility. How does this ball club absorb that loss?
Well, it's a hard loss. And Gavin's a guy that I've talked about so much through the year that, just from playing first base, playing third base, was a big part of our offense. The cool thing is he's going to be up here, and he's going to bring that personality to that dugout. But you don't replace a guy like that. You just hope that someone else steps up to fill in that role, and they'll get we talk about opportunities all the time. Somebody else is getting an opportunity because of that bad break. I just hope that whoever that turns out to be will take advantage of that. But you don't really replace that, so you just hope that person steps up.
I've asked a few people, Stuart, that cover this team in terms of this batting order, because you know what you're going to get from Cole Messina night in, night out. Yep. You know what you're going to get from Ethan Petrie night in, night out. And sometimes it kind of depends on who the other heroes are in the lineup, the unsung heroes that can appear in this lineup. I've gotten a lot of Kennedy Jones responses when asking this question, but who do you think the best, or I guess maybe the most important supporting hitter in this lineup is going to be if South Carolina wants to get out of Raleigh and play in the Supers?
Well, I'll stick with my top two guys in the Brindley and Jackson because they're just so right there. But Kennedy Jones, no question, could be a huge factor in this because he gets to follow all that. So if you decide not to pitch to a Cole in a situation or maybe whatever, I can see why he would get a ton of votes in that. But you know what? Will Tippett, he's been thrown back in, has shown a little more power since he's been back from the issues he had to deal with, and yeah, we got to give Billy Anderson's riding with me to Raleigh, so I've got to give credit to our strength coach. What exactly is your title, Billy? But no, I'm joking. We're riding in the back as Derek chauffeurs us up to Raleigh. So if I didn't give him credit, he might put me in an arm bar or something. He's a good amateur wrestler.
We should have had this.
No,
should have had this on video now with Derek driving and listening.
I've gone off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's good. But no, I really do. I think Kennedy Jones could be, as you say, a key guy just because of where he falls typically in the lineup with that. But to me, again, Blake Jackson is the key right there in the middle of Ethan and Cole to set the table for him.
All right. Well, then we'll leave it with this. Tell Billy to keep them all healthy and tell Derek to pick up the check tonight wherever y'all go, and everything will be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he's already got our reservations. I'll tell him check is in his name. So that'd be great.
Yeah, see, that's how it works. Yeah. Hey, appreciate you. Y'all have a good call tomorrow. We'll holler at you next week. Always appreciate the time, Stuart.
Oh, yeah. Enjoy y'all, too. Thank you.
All right, Coach.
Bye.
That is Stuart Lake, Stuart_Lake, to follow Coach on Twitter.
Or you just hit him with I left my wallet in the car.
Yeah.
Sorry, Derek.
Or in Columbia.
In Columbia, I left my wallet back at home. Can't pay for it. Sorry, bud.
It's easier that way because then you got the whole weekend.
Exactly. Yeah, well, see, that buys you more time. See, you're thinking hard. You're thinking harder here.
And then when you need to pay it back next week, you know what? It was actually in Raleigh the whole time. My bad.
And I left it there too.
My bad. I didn't see that one coming. 803-404-6100. We'll hit a few things going on around the Southeastern Conference. Could they be going to 9 football games? We'll get into that. We'll give you some kickoff times, too. And back to the poll question discussion as well. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start with a pretty big one over near Casey. An accident, an overturned tractor trailer has 2 right lanes completely blocked on I-77 southbound over at the I-26 exit 1. 2 right lanes blocked, pretty much bumper-to-bumper traffic over there. Avoid if possible. Here in town, we have an accident over at Hugh G. Street near Blossom Street, causing some mild delay. We also have one on I-20 westbound after the Monticello Road exit 68, and one on Old Hopkins Road at Garner's Ferry Road.
Been talking some Carolina baseball. We'll get back into that with our buddy Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. Jack will join us from Raleigh coming up around 5:15. He was at Mark Kingston's press conference earlier today. Eli Jones will start for the Gamecocks. Gavin Casas had surgery this morning. He is done for the season. Those are some of the big headlines around Carolina baseball. More from Jack coming up in just a little bit. We'll come back around to the poll question in just a second. I've got a little bit of breaking news from the SEC meetings. This from our buddy Seth Emerson, as well as the Athletics' Andrew Marchand, who covers television, sports television and business for the Athletic. According to them, Netflix and the Southeastern Conference are closing in on a deal that will be a documentary, much like Drive to Survive that covered F1. Full Swing that covered the PGA Tour. I'll read verbatim here. While the contracts are not yet signed, all indications are that an agreement is close and that Netflix will take viewers behind the scenes during the upcoming football season. Netflix declined to comment, and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said he would not confirm it. Quote, "We make announcements when we make announcements. Despite what sources like to say, nothing's done until it's done." We've been sitting here talking today about new sources of revenue.
Which means it's probably done. And he said, that's code for, why'd you spoil it? We'll make announcements when we make announcements.
I remember many years ago when our good friend Charles Bloom, who, of course, has been at South Carolina for a while now, was working with Commissioner Slive as one of his associate commissioners at the Southeastern Conference. And we all knew that they were working on the Southeastern Conference Network. We weren't quite sure what exactly it was going to look like. But then those who ever may have gotten a chance to meet Commissioner Slive, who I just thought the world of, he had this wry smile, but they called it Project X. They didn't call it the SEC Network or anything. They were working on Project X.
Geez, you build a nuclear bomb? Like, what?
And,
that's a little
you know,
intense.
maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, you know, but this isn't that, obviously. I mean, and now the SEC Network is doing, seriously, it does like twice as well as they thought it was going to do.
Oh, it's a smash.
Yeah.
Smashing success.
I love the SEC Network.
That's fantastic.
It's got so much good stuff. But here's another new source of revenue. We were talking earlier today, and now I'll come around to the poll question. You still want more. Okay,
because it just means more.
Right. Yeah. But today's poll question, hang on, let me get back to the Twitters. The NCAA is considering whether or not schools will be allowed to sell space on their football fields to advertisers in order to increase revenue. Would you be in favor of this or other new sources of revenue? And if you have other ideas, as I've asked you, please leave a reply on Twitter. Let me update this. Here we go. Thank you. The choices: A, yes, on the field. B, yes, field and uniforms. C, no, it's a bad look. Right now, 51.1 say no, it's a bad look. 27.5, yes, on the field. 21.4, yes, field and uniforms. So basically, it's a 50-50 split on yes. And then even the yes is split roughly 50-50, a little bit more towards the just on the field. I'll go ahead now if you haven't already kind of read between my lines, and then I'll get Elijah's take on this, or Eli's take, as it were.
That's right. Me, Eli Jones, what's the difference?
I'm in favor of this. I don't often, when I'm doing a poll question, I try to just gauge the audience without, tainting the jury pool, as it were, or something like that. But in this case, I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm in favor of this. And here's why. You need the money. Like it or not, you need the money. We had somebody hit us on the text line earlier, on the Firehouse Subs text line, J-Mac, who's a good dude, and said it's sad that this is what it's come to. Well, okay, I mean, if you're sad, you're sad. I'm not here to tell J-Mac how to feel. I'd like more of why you're sad. Again, the disappointment here needs to be in the leaders of schools who continued to vote for things that were illegal.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple, y'all. And again, to those who believe this was like the last bastion of amateurism and all that is good and right with the world and, the pureness of snowflakes on a winter wind, that's why there is an NCAA.
Don't get a lot of the snowflakes here in South Carolina.
Because the purity of the snow on the winter wind ain't been around for over 100 years. Again, that's why there's an NCAA, so that you could reel in the bad actors. Has it worked? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. But this is the world. And again, the NCAA and its adult leaders have, for a couple of generations, been restricting the rights of free American adults. You can't do that. Well, now we have to overcorrect to come back around to what the free market actually wants to support. People want to pay for this. Disney wants to pay for the rights to television. Fox wants to pay. NBC Universal has gotten in. CBS didn't re-up with the SEC, but they did re-up with the Big Ten. Amazon wants a game somewhere. They're probably going to get one. Apple wants a game somewhere. They're probably going to get one. Netflix wants to do a documentary. And, oh, by the way, don't forget, Netflix is getting into live sports with Christmas Day NFL. Don't think that if that works well, and Netflix won't go, hey, we got like 6 mountains of cash that we're sitting on. Not just one. Why don't we get into some college football? Hey, we've already done this documentary with the SEC. Hey, we've already been around the entire conference. Why don't we just, do that? People want to pay for this. People will want to put their logo on your football field. People will want to put a patch on your jersey. People will want to put a sticker on your helmet. They want to do it. The free market will support it. I'm for this. I'm for this. Again, not on the front like a soccer jersey, although I'm used to that as a big soccer fan. It was weird for a couple of days when I saw the Quick Read patch on the Braves uniform. You and I were talking about the baseball uniforms earlier. That was weird. Now you know what it is? There.
Just there, yeah.
And next time I need some concrete around my house, you know what I'm going to probably buy? Some Quick Read. You want to know why? Because they sponsor.
Works.
Well, it does work, but they sponsor my team. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll help a brother out.
That's right. Yeah, you're friends with me. No, I remember when they first started, or the report first came out that NBA jerseys were going to have some advertisements on them. And I, like a lot of people that read this report, my first instinct is anything sacred? Can we keep anything sacred? Can we protect anything from, the greed of the league? And after a while, I've stopped noticing. I couldn't even, when it first happened, I could tell you a lot of the advertisers that were on certain jerseys because I thought it looked ugly and because I was being stubborn. But now I couldn't tell you. I watched a decent amount of NBA. Couldn't tell you what half of the league has on their jerseys because almost all of them have a corporate logo of some sort on their jersey.
If you don't, my question is why? Why don't you? And I think they all do, right?
They all do now. Yeah, they pretty much all do. And that's
I know the Dubs have Rakuten because that's also like Barcelona's shirt sponsor.
Rakuten spends a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know what they do, but
Racketeering, maybe.
I don't know. Yeah.
That would
do know
explain
what
why
they. I
have
know
that
what they
much
purport to
sponsorship.
do. I just don't know what they do.
What they really
Right.
do, right?
Yeah, so,
Like,
yeah, their Super Bowl commercial. I was like, what do y'all do?
I've known of Rakuten for years now. Couldn't tell you a damn thing they do
Yeah, I'm not so
because I
sure.
don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But I mean, here's the thing. I think for a lot of people, it'll grow on them, and I think there's a really good, we have a one pretty good text here from Bonnie where he says, I promise that no one cares about patches on college football uniform. If they say something like All-State Sugar Bowl or FedEx Orange Bowl, nobody ever had a problem with those patches, so they wouldn't have a problem with these. And I agree with Monty. I think it's going to blend in.
Yeah.
He says Michelin, Boeing, BMW all have major corporations or operations in South Carolina. He has no problem seeing any of those sponsors on Gamecock jerseys or fields because you know what Boeing, Michelin, and BMW have? A ton of cash.
Yeah.
You know what you can do with a ton of cash? Buy some really good ball players.
That's what I would be doing too. Monty, good text. 803-404-6100. We'll come back around to some more of y'all's comments on this as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the post-game show, 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Thursday. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being on board. Do want to remind you the craft beer card is back. You can spend $30 per location at 12 craft beer spots all across the Midlands. 12 times 30, $360 value. Yours for only $79. It's a big savings, a lot of beer. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals to learn more about the craft beer card. I may go get a craft beer after work today. I don't know where I'll go yet. Today feels like a craft beer day. You know? Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Again, I've already made a bet with myself tomorrow. If the Carolina-James Madison game is in the 6th inning, what did I say earlier? 5:15? Then I won't even come into the station. I'm just not going to come to work tomorrow. Because
at 5:15, yeah, it's.
I mean, I should really make this though like some kind of a dare. You know, like 4:45, and then see what happens. But I don't want to get hollered at, and I don't want you to have to like carry whatever number of minutes of the show by yourself from Raleigh. You know, you're really like, Jay, and there's nobody on the other end.
It's the Elijah Campbell Sports Experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you and Tyler get your own shows. It turns into the sports experience, which I'm here for. So I don't know.
I think you're safe on that one.
If it's in the 6th inning at 5:15, there ain't no way that we're going to come. You know, so I think I need to up the risk factor here a little bit. 4:50.
Ooh.
4:45. I mean, add another half hour into the mix. Like if it's in the 6th inning at 4:45.
I want you to you just sweat it a little bit.
Do I come in? And here's the thing. Then the good news is I don't live that far away.
You do live pretty close.
So
Close.
I do. I only live a couple of minutes away. And that time of day, actually, the traffic flow coming into downtown is virtually non-existent. Everybody's going back into the neighborhood, right? So I could get up here pretty fast.
Now, what you need to do.
So if the game ended and I was at home, I could make it before the postgame show ended, before their postgame show ended, not this postgame.
Not our postgame show.
Yes.
Now, what would make this really interesting if you documented yourself, say the game ends at like 4:50, but you don't allow yourself to leave the house until after the first postgame segment.
I could still make it.
Do you make it or the second postgame segment?
Yeah, if they go 25 minutes, yeah. As long as, there's not like a wreck or something, and I can't listen to you for the traffic report because there won't be one.
That's right. There will be no traffic report.
All right, we'll figure it out. We'll.
This can get really interesting.
Because the other day I came in to the office, to the studio in like the 6th inning. Just, we were just hanging out talking, and I'm not going to lie to you. Elijah and I actually, we pulled out the putter
We
for a
putted
little while
bit.
while we were listening to Derek. Gunner has a putter in here, but we don't have one of those return things. That's what we need, is one of those things that, pops the ball back
I actually
out.
have one at my dad's. I might have to just bring that and make it
Next
office
time you go home.
use.
Yeah, okay.
Next time I go visit.
That's cool.
Bring it, for office use.
The Longhorn Troop, that's a fun name on Twitter, says of our discussion, it would be cool if they made it mandatory to be local businesses. Sure, there might not be as much money, but local businesses, Dreamland in Tuscaloosa, Franklin's in Austin would be pretty awesome. Yeah, but you nailed it, though. It would be cool, but no, that's not happening.
They'll get outbid, unfortunately. Columbia Craft on the jersey.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Let's see. No, we already did Justin's. Well, this one is from Kilgore. Adapt or die. Yeah.
College sports in 2024.
Rob says it is a bad look, all caps with is, but on the field is better than the uniforms. Listen, uniforms I threw out. That's not necessarily being discussed yet. at the collegiate level. And just to remind you all, this is only a discussion point amongst, the national organization. Quite honestly, I didn't know until today, it's because I've never really thought about it. I didn't know you couldn't. I mean, what's to stop you? You can sell advertising inside your ballpark, inside your arena.
Oh, yeah. We certainly had a texter bring up LSU as an example. It's like, you go ahead and find this text, but it was talking about, it goes, advertising. Have you seen LSU's baseball field on TV? A lot of Tony's. A lot of Tony's advertisements.
Well, is that Tony Chachere's? Or
the delicious Cajun seasoning.
Oh, man. Put it on anything.
Oh, yes.
Big fan. I just, look, I get why some may find this problematic from a standpoint of a so-called tradition or a bygone era. But like Kilgore says here, adapt or die. Evolve or die is what I would say instead, but the same thing applies. This is happening, in terms of the need for new revenue stream and what you need to pay for. Gotta see what's up. Be right back. Oh, it's hot out there, y'all. It's going to be that way till, I don't know, Halloween. It's time for you to call AAA Heating and Air if your system is not keeping you and your family comfortable. Now, if it's not all that old and you just need a quick repair, 803-677-1500. True transparency pricing will let you know up front what it is you're going to pay for, how much it's going to cost. They've done that kind of thing at my house. But it may also be time for a brand new system. You may not know how old your system is. You may not have had it inspected in many, many years. Well, Roy and Dana Finley and the crew at AAA Heating and Air are ready to help you out. Listen, you get no payments, no interest if you buy in 2024 for a full year. You heard me right. You also get a $1,500 system buyback rebate and a 15-year parts and labor guarantee. That makes this a great time to put a brand new HVAC system into your home. Get a free quote at call AAAtoday.com or call them up 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you to AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start with a pretty big one over in Casey. An accident has the two right lanes completely blocked because of an overturned tractor trailer. That is on I-77 southbound at I-26 near exit 1, so it's bumper-to-bumper traffic over near exit 1, so avoid if possible. We also have an accident on Hughes East Street near Blossom Street, one on I-20 eastbound. That's going to be near Highway 34 and exit 44. And lastly, we have one on Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive that's causing some issues.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. We'll start with Gamecock baseball and Mark Kingston and Matt Williams making the announcement today that Eli Jones will start for South Carolina tomorrow afternoon against James Madison. The Dukes will throw a fellow junior righty, Todd Mazzocchi. Jones this year, 3-4 with a 5.32, 64 and a third, 52 strikeouts to just 19 walks. Mazzocchi is 5-1, but has a 6.80 ERA.
Holy run support, man.
47 and 2/3 innings pitched, 42 strikeouts, and 22 walks. We talked with Stuart Lake a little bit earlier. He felt like Eli, as a veteran guy, was the right decision here. He's ready to go. Look, everybody's ready to go. You haven't played since Saturday afternoon, so everybody is going to be limbered up. I know that the team only had, I think they had a couple of days, of light practice. They didn't really do anything super heavy. I do know, and Stuart confirmed as well, Elijah, that they did some defensive drills, but Mark said a couple of different times to Bill Gunner and me in his Monday press conference after the announcement, we're not going to beat him over the head with it. And he said primarily because last week was more of an anomaly. He didn't have a real explanation as to why. He said in 30 conference games, we fielded, 979, which everybody in the league will live with. But for whatever reasons, last week they officially committed 12 errors. I think you're right when it was probably more like 15. The mental mistakes were equally, if not more, concerning for this ball club. Do you shake that off? The good news, if you will, is you went 3-2 in those games. The bad, of course, is that you committed some of your worst mistakes in the games where you were actually hitting the ball really well, but you lost 11-10 and 12-11.
They're a one-run game.
Yeah.
The errors are usually what cost you. Those are the types of games that errors cost you,
right,
are those one-run games.
But Eli Jones will be the starter tomorrow. We'll talk with Jack Veltri in just a little bit. Jack, of course, on the beat for Gamecock Central. He is in Raleigh. He was covering Mark's press conference earlier. He's been around the ball club this week. We'll see what Jack says about some of the other pitching options. I can't. You're going to play Saturday no matter what, whether it's a winner's bracket game or a loser's bracket game. But I don't know that Mark or Matt would be ready to say anything because it will all depend on winning tomorrow. This is a tournament now. Even if again it's double elim, you want to play in the winner's bracket game. So I have some thoughts on who might start on Saturday, but we'll see if Jack has anything else to add to that. I can't imagine that there is any pitcher on this staff that is, if you will, untouchable, unpitchable tomorrow afternoon.
All arms a go.
Everybody's ready to go.
All arms, yeah.
Yep. There is bad news around Carolina baseball, though. Gavin Casas is officially now done for the season. This had been hinted at earlier in the week, but maybe there was some hope that that hamate bone could get looked at, that there could be a way to play through it. We talked earlier in the week that maybe Christian Walker back in the day was one of one that was able to play through something like this, I think at the 2011 College World Series. I remember our dear friend Tommy Moody telling a story of being in the dugout before one of the games with Florida. Yeah, how you doing? And he said Christian was just kind of looking down at the ground like, oh, I'm good. And Tommy kind of knew he wasn't. But you know what? They won the College World Series, and he kept playing. And he's doing fine now, is Christian Walker.
He's doing really well.
So
getting the snot out of the ball.
But Gavin Costas did have surgery this morning. Coach Kingston saying you've got to rely on the doctors, and once they say this is really the only option, you combine that with how Gavin is feeling, what strength he's at right now, just the normal everyday activity. It just became an easy decision, that being to fix this surgically. According to Coach Stuart Lake, who again was with us last hour, Gavin is going to be able to travel with the team. I imagine this is an outpatient procedure. He'll have a cast, but he will be with the team in Raleigh. He may make his – I don't know if he – I mean, they went yesterday. I mean, he clearly had surgery today here. Mm-hmm. So maybe he drives up tomorrow with friends and family. But Stewart said all indications were that Gavin would be with the team in the dugout, in the clubhouse, at the hotel, and be part of what they're doing, even if he can't play. So that's good news.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, those last days as a collegiate athlete, and you know, enjoy them as much as you can. It's just very unfortunate he's not going to be able to play, but I think his presence in the dugout's going to be good for morale.
And here again, we'll ask Jack. Mark told us earlier in the week that both Talmadge Lecroy and Tyler Causey would be getting some work at third base. So, you know,
I've seen a lot of Tyler Causey lately.
Yeah, but Mark said they're going to have him ready to go. And a lot of this could also just be about who's playing shortstop. Again, the hitting and defense kind of give and take that they've talked about the last month or so since Will Tippett got hurt. You know, Will's been coming back. He's played well since he's come back. But they may look for some other options offensively. We'll find out. But again, we'll talk with Jack Veltri about that coming up in just a little bit. But once again, Eli Jones will start tomorrow for Carolina. One other thing that Jack is reporting on, and we'll try to sneak this in if we can in the few minutes that we have with him, but it was made known today that South Carolina is going to be playing Indiana in men's basketball. That game will be in November up at Assembly Hall. This is the first time I was alive, but I don't remember it. But the first time they will have played in Bloomington since 1973. And this is a
so cool.
I'm assuming that this is going to be a home and home. I don't know that Jack reported it that way for sure. But this is a regular season game. This is not going to be one of these one-off tournaments or anything like that.
Exhibitions that they had a lot of last year.
So I'm going to assume that Indiana will be making a return to Columbia, whether it's next season or in a future season. But I think it's great. I think this is fantastic. You know, Indiana's not what they once were. I get it, but you're still getting to play a quality Big Ten opponent.
They racked up in the transfer portal, though. They'll be an interesting team here this year. That's going to be good for the net rankings. And my only gripe about this is that it's in November, not December, because I can't go. That's a bucket list arena, man. That Assembly Hall, when it's packed and it's rocking, that is a quintessential college basketball venue right there. So whenever you're watching, the Gamecock football team play Missouri that day, you'll have to keep an extra tab on how the basketball team's doing in Indiana. That would be a huge win if they're able to get that, though. I think that's a really good measuring stick game.
Who does the football team have that day?
Missouri.
Here?
Here. Yep.
Which one do you want to go to?
Oh, man. Football season, though, it's...
which one do you want to go to?
I think I'd rather go to Indiana.
Go. We'll make it happen.
I
don't care if we're live on the air right now. We'll make that happen.
That's right, yeah. Now we have to because we said it on the air.
I think you should go.
Assembly Hall.
We got people that can cover the football game. Go to
Assembly Hall is Assembly Hall. That's a big deal.
We're going to have to work on that.
We might have to.
I think we should.
That's
the thing. I don't want to play.
That's a big day in South Carolina athletics. It's a massive day.
Yeah, I just don't want them at the same time. So I hope that.
That would be tough.
Who's coaching Indiana now?
That's Mike Woodson. Still.
Okay, Mike Woodson.
They haven't canned him yet, which is really surprising. I would have done that 2 years ago.
Did he used to be at St. John's?
This is his first college coaching gig, I believe.
Oh.
He used to be at the Atlanta Hawks and New York Knicks.
Who am I thinking of that was at St. John's?
Mike Anderson.
Okay. Well, no, because he's Arkansas, and I wasn't thinking of him. I guess I just thought Woodson was also in college at some point. That's all.
He
I
did
know who.
play
I knew
for-
he was in the NBA, but
Yeah, I don't think Mike Woodson.
I don't know. Well, it's
coached
fine.
in
It's
college.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. No, I knew it wasn't.
Curiosity
No, Mike Anderson. I love Mike Anderson.
Good style of play. They're fun. His teams have always been fun to watch.
Yeah, there was a time back in the day when I thought maybe South Carolina could make a run at him a long time ago, but that wasn't going to happen, I guess.
And I didn't think his tenure in Arkansas was too tumultuous.
I didn't think so.
thought that was they were at least had a pretty respectable, solid program.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good. Carolina, Indiana, men's basketball,
Pretty damn cool.
Saturday, November the 16th. I guess time to be determined.
That's right.
What do you think? Day game?
Yeah.
That's like
Noon.
that's a 12 or a 2.
Yeah.
I don't see that as a night game. Who does Indiana have in football that day?
Oh man.
Look that up for me.
Yeah.
Well,
Because, unless it's Purdue, and even if it's at home, I think you're going to get a better crowd at that basketball game.
Atlanta Braves back at it against the Washington Nationals. Didn't go well last night for the Braves. They fell 7-2. Spencer Schwellenbach made his major league debut. He pitched all right, 5 innings, gave up 3 runs, but the Braves just couldn't score anything. They'll play again tonight at 7:20 in Atlanta. The New York Mets today, staying with our integrated media headlines of the day, have designated pitcher Jorge Lopez for assignment a day after he pitched really badly against the Dodgers in New York City at Citi Field, was ejected, and then threw his glove into the stands. Carlos Mendoza, the Met manager, says this was unacceptable, that it would be handled internally, and this is how it was handled. Get the heck out, dude.
They handled it internally and externally.
Lopez apparently said, quote, "I don't regret it. I think I've been looking like the worst teammate probably in the whole bleeping MLB." I'll let you determine what bleeping was. According to this report from the AP, it was a comment he addressed further the next day, posting that he indeed called himself the worst teammate, saying earlier stories from some outlets initially misquoted him as saying that he was on the worst team. So he said he was the worst teammate. He had given up a home run to Shohei Ohtani. Then he yelled at one of the umpires over a check swing from Freddie Freeman. You're not supposed to argue balls and strikes, even if it's a check swing. And he didn't like what the umpire had said, and he got run. I don't know what good throwing your glove into the stands does other than give somebody a free glove.
Because now you got to get a new one.
Oh, they got plenty of gloves, but why you throw your glove in the stands? What if you hit some grandma? You know? Or some little kid just having his ice cream. Like, oh, there's a baseball glove in my lap.
Now it's a vanilla ice cream flavored baseball glove in your lap.
He'll get picked up. He was 1-2 this year with a 3.76, 2 saves, 28 appearances. He's only making $2 million, so he'll get picked up.
Only.
Somebody, well,
Relative to me, I know what you're saying. Yeah, relatively.
but he was pretty good last year. Not a great ERA, but anyway, he'll get
That can
picked up.
fluctuate.
But here's a lesson, kids. Just toss your glove into the stands when you're mad at the umpire.
Or just give it to a kid.
Or just give it to a kid, yeah. Or better yet, just
Better PR.
Don't get run.
Yeah.
Finally, tonight, NBA playoffs continue as Dallas looks to close out Minnesota. The Mavs are up 3-1 over the Timberwolves. T-Wolves now 4.5-point favorites at home. Again, I think this one goes back to Dallas over the weekend. Apparently, some Timberwolves players have a very cool Prince shoe. Have you seen this?
Oh, no.
There's a Nike shoe with Prince on it.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if he
Can't lose in those.
I know he was a basketball fan. I don't know how much of a T-Wolves fan he ever was before his passing.
I mean, even people that live in Minnesota, I think the T-Wolves have made it hard for them to love initially.
Do they even know there's a team?
They do now.
Okay.
Now there's success.
That's
but how many can recall the Luke Ridnour days? That's the question.
Luke's mom?
How many have Chase Budinger jerseys? Johnny Flynn fans in the stands? Ricky Rubio?
Ooh, no, Ricky Rubio was good.
He was good.
I like him.
Was popular.
Yeah.
Is there a Nikola Pekovic jersey in the collection? If not, then you're not that big of a Timberwolves fan. Rashad McCants, I mean, I can go on all day. Joe Smith.
Hey, Joe Smith, man. Maryland's Joe Smith.
Former number 1 overall pick, Joe Smith.
Yeah, Joe Smith.
Yeah. Timberwolf great, and by great I mean he played.
Yeah,
on the
these
team.
are all in the T-Wolves Team Store Annex.
Yes, Wally Zerbiak. If you go back far enough,
Hey, Wally's great on television.
he is. He is a very good.
Oh, he's great.
Very good television.
I like him a lot. There you go. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for all your home entertainment, home security needs. No job too big, no job too small. Call my good friends at Integrated Media. Watch and listen to everything you do better than ever. Jack Veltri on the other side with the latest on what's going on around Carolina baseball as we are less than 24 hours from the start of the NCAA tournament. Jack is with us when the postgame show comes back.
Yeah, Rasha Nesterovich too. With the college baseball playoffs just around the corner, starting tomorrow actually, it's pretty understood that the best teams need good coaching to be able to get them to Omaha, to get to the College World Series. And everybody needs good coaching in certain aspects of their life. I've gotten fantastic coaching from my friends over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Paul Grant and Shaylin at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss have helped me a ton, not just only meet my weight loss goal, but exceed it. And doing so without any dieting pills, any shots, anything like that. Just good coaching, being able to help me establish habits and use a program that, with the use of information and planning and just good fundamental coaching, help you achieve not just your weight loss goal, but healthier lifestyle choices and a more sustainable living. If you're interested in that and learning the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day and start your own success story like me, give them a call, 803-824-4210. That's 803-824-4210. Results may vary.
19 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. We'll come back around to some of our poll question discussion. And I promise I'll make Elijah hammer this into my brain. We didn't get around to the 9-game football talk in the last hour. We got into other stuff with the poll question, and then there was the breaking news about the Netflix thing. So in the drive around,
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and we'll mention that again in the drive around too. But remind me to discuss some of what is being talked about down in Destin with the 9-game schedule.
Hey, Jay.
Yes.
Discuss the 9-game schedule.
Okay. Well, tell me that again after the break.
There we go.
After the break. In the meantime, before the break, our buddy Jack Veltri is back with us. Jack's doing a fantastic job covering Carolina baseball this season, and as we speak, he is in the North Carolina capital, getting ready for tomorrow's game with Carolina and JMU. You found a good place to eat yet? Like, have you ever been to Raleigh before?
So, yeah, thank you guys for having me on, as always. I've been to Raleigh a few times. Whenever the Islanders are playing the Hurricanes in Raleigh, I try to make it out once a year.
Nice.
I did make it out for the playoff run, but, I haven't really gotten a chance to go out yet. I'll go out tonight and probably find something to eat. But, I got here probably around, 11, and then went straight to baseball, and then I'm back at the hotel now just chilling. And then once I'm wrapped up with you guys, I'll probably go out in a little bit. But we'll have to see. Hopefully there's some good eateries around here.
Well, from what we understand, Derek Scott is paying for Billy Anderson and Stuart Lake to eat. So if you just sneak into wherever they're going, just call Stuart real fast. And
yeah, exactly.
Derek's,
right? I have a good enough connection with them to make it work.
Yeah,
so
Derek's paying. That's what we were told.
People are saying this.
Of course, I'm the one who said that was happening, so I suppose it could be on me.
Just tell me you left your wallet in your car. It works every time.
Eli Jones will start tomorrow for the Gamecocks. Not much of a surprise, right?
No, I don't think so. Tomorrow, every game's a must-win at this point. It's win or go home, basically, now. But tomorrow especially is probably the biggest game of the regional, in my opinion, because if you win, you're in the winner's bracket, and then things are a lot smoother from there, especially if you can find a way to go 2-0 in these first two games. But, yeah, starting Eli tomorrow, I like it. He's more of a pitch-to-contact type of guy, and JMU does have a good offense. So I think if the defense is able to back him up tomorrow, I think it works out. But obviously, Mark Kingston was saying that they'll figure out how they want to go about it as the start goes on. If he's pitching well, continue to ride with him. If something's up, then turn the baton over to the next guy, as he said.
And I mentioned this to Stuart Lake earlier in the last hour, talking about maybe some of the defensive woes that they had in Hoover, which seems uncharacteristic considering just the mass volume of defensive errors that were made. But it's not going to get any easier, Jack, because you mentioned James Madison's their offensive attack. And they'll hit some home runs, and they certainly put balls in play because they don't strike out a ton, they don't draw a ton of walks, and they love to steal bases. So given, the defensive performance in Hoover last week, what are you expecting against a team like James Madison, who is certainly going to make sure that you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's in the field?
I definitely expect a lot better. I've said it all week. 10 errors in 3 games at the tail end of Hoover last week was atrocious. You were lucky to win one of those games against Kentucky, and had it not been for 4 hours in each game against LSU, you probably would have been playing for an SEC championship. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and the defensive mistakes got in the way of what could have been. Now, I think they're going to be better off this week, mainly because, one, they've had time to go back and review the tape, see what went wrong, were they positioned wrong, were they just not getting their glove down, what's the case? And I feel like they've had time to go out here and correct it over the last few days. They seem like they have done so. Obviously, the games will tell the tale of what's been going on, but it's not a simple fix, and you definitely you have to be on your toes tomorrow, like you said, especially with a team like James Madison, who does put the ball in play and can steal some bags.
Talking to Jack Veltri at Gamecock Central. He's in Raleigh, Carolina, JMU tomorrow afternoon. Again, we have coverage for you beginning at 1:45 with a 2 o'clock first pitch, and then we'll figure out the game time. By the way, Jack, I've made a dare with myself, basically, because Elijah will be with you at the press box tomorrow, so he'll be in Raleigh with you. I'm not going to leave the house if the game's in the 6th inning at 4:45. I'm just not coming into work, because I figure that between the end of the game and the post-game show, before this post-game show, I'll be fine. You think I'm safe?
I think so. I mean, look, these games run so long, and with a lot of offense, Jay, I think you're in a good spot to where, like, you should feel safe with your bet there.
Yeah. And if I have to race in like my boxers and a T-shirt,
Don't even put britches on until at least 5:30.
No. Yeah. Well, it's like, no button Friday, but like no shorts Friday. All right, I'm scaring people now. Elijah, and I also mentioned earlier that I'm sorry.
The imagery now.
I know. I'm
is
sorry.
outrageous.
I'm sorry. All hands on deck when it comes to pitching, right? There's not one pitcher that's going to be tapped on the shoulder tomorrow and say you will not be throwing until Saturday.
Well, I mean, they had 15 pitchers on the roster for the SEC tournament and used all of them. And for the most part, I think most of those guys actually threw well. Like, the fact that we're talking about Sam Simpson potentially being used, Roman Kimball, I mean, it's crazy.
Roman pitched well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like Roman pitched bad or anything. It's just, he has been pitching well lately, and he hadn't been used for like 2 weeks.
Right.
And Sam Simpson hasn't been throwing since March 26th. So, I think it is all hands on deck. You're doing whatever the difference between going 2-0 in these first two games and, playing 5 games in 4 days is such a big difference, because all you have to do after going 2-0 is win one more game in the next 2 days on either Sunday or Monday. And, I think if you find a way to go out here and win these first 2 games with Eli Jones and then possibly Garrett Gainey on Saturday, you can piece it together for one more game, in my opinion.
Oh, certainly, especially if you don't have to use Ty Good in any of those, and you have a built-in starter basically for that next game. But Jack, when watching the SEC tournament, I think the 2 relievers that I was the most impressed with was Chris Veach against Alabama, and then Matthew Becker in multiple occasions being able to come in as a lefty and be able to get you out of some jams. For those 2 guys, how important is it going to be for them to be able to get you out of not just some jams, but to be able to eat up some innings too, to where maybe you don't have to resort to using a pitcher that hasn't pitched since March, that you're still maybe trying to develop before giving them actual innings maybe in the future?
Yeah, so here's the thing with Veach. I think Mark kind of has an option here. He either can use him the same way he did against Alabama, and that be it for his weekend, I should say, because obviously when he pitched against LSU the second time, his changeup just wasn't breaking at all, and LSU was all over it. And I think that's because he was kind of burnt out throwing 67 pitches against Alabama. But if you want to split it up and have him throw 2 or 3 innings in 2 different appearances this weekend, maybe that works out better. I'm not sure. I think it just depends on the situation. But then with Becker, I've loved him coming out of the bullpen. I think he's done a pretty good job. Yeah, he did have the throwing error against LSU that brought in a run, but I think he did a good job at closing out that game against Kentucky, and then I believe he pitched one other game. Maybe it was against Alabama, I think. But point is, he pitched well out of the bullpen, and that's kind of where I think he thrives right now, in my opinion.
Jack, we know Gavin Costas is done for the season, had surgery today. Stewart told us earlier he thinks he'll be with the team tomorrow, which is nice in terms of the camaraderie. But what are you hearing about his direct replacement in the field and lineup?
Yeah, so when the team arrived today, Gavin noticeably was not, with the team today. Yeah, I think that is because, one, he was getting surgery today and all that. And, I think it'll be good for the team to have him back in the dugout. And maybe it can be like the rallying cry of, like, okay, like this was supposed to be Gavin's last season. Let's go out here and give him what he deserves, which is a championship. But with the situation at third, watching batting practice and, teamwork today, Talmadge LeCroy was taking first-team reps at third, followed by Tyler Causey. Who they start tomorrow, I'm not sure. I was on the fence about, maybe starting Causey because I think he's a better bat. And even though he hasn't played third at all this year, I think he just gives you more offense than Talmadge. But at the same time, despite Talmadge's struggles, he is the one that has been playing third all year. And, I was watching the rerun of the Carolina-NC State winners bracket game last year a few nights ago, and I was just astonished to see how well Talmadge was playing at third base. I mean, he was fielding much harder hit balls than, the one that got by him off the bat of Michael Braswell the other day. So, look, I mean, it all comes down to confidence. I think once you get the first big play out of the way, you can go about the rest of your day and feel a lot better. So that's the key for me, and I do expect Talmadge to start tomorrow, but we won't find out until about when the lineups come out.
Good stuff as always, man. Appreciate you. Have fun up there tonight. Good stuff this weekend. We'll talk to you real soon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
That is Jack Veltri, GamecockCentral.com. Jack T. Veltri on Twitter. Drive Around the SEC is next.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll go and start off with a big one in Casey that's been causing a pretty big issue for about the last hour and a half or so. It's an accident featuring an overturned dump truck that has the right lane block. They were down to only, or they did have 2 lanes blocked. Now it's just the right lane completely blocked. That's over near exit 1 on I-77 southbound. So hopefully that one gets taken care of here soon. We still have a couple in Lexington County, one on I-20 eastbound at Highway 34 near exit 44, and one on 26 eastbound at Sunset Boulevard near exit 110.
And it is Drive Around the SEC time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks again to Jack Veltri for joining us, talking Gamecock baseball. We'll start with the full rundown of tomorrow's action as 11 Southeastern Conference schools will be playing in the NCAA tournament. Tomorrow at noon, Kentucky hosts Western Michigan. LSU and Wofford will play in Chapel Hill. Also at noon tomorrow, Vandy and Coastal up in Clemson. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, A&M and Grambling. That's in College Station. Georgia takes on Army at 1 o'clock in Athens. Carolina and James Madison at 2. Arkansas hosts Southeast Missouri State. That's at 3 o'clock in Fayetteville. Also at 3 o'clock, Florida versus Nebraska. That's in the Stillwater Regional. Tomorrow night at 6, UCF and Alabama in Tallahassee. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in Charlottesville, Mississippi State and St. John's. And finally, tomorrow night, also at 7 o'clock, Tennessee will take on Northern Kentucky. Tennessee, the number 1 overall seed. Looking at this one, teams, I feel like pretty much every SEC school is going to be favored here, maybe with the exception of Florida, Nebraska.
And maybe, even maybe, Florida might be favored over Nebraska.
That's what I'm saying.
So even
yeah, Florida.
Alex Gordon ain't walking through that door.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Again, I still go back to Brad Bohannon getting fired last year. Going, who the hell bets on college baseball anyway?
It's a very select field.
I mean, I don't bet. Listen, I've told you before. I still don't understand the baseball betting lines, man.
Well, it's pretty. Actually, it's the easiest one to understand. It's all 1.5.
Yeah, well,
one team's favored to win by more than 1 run.
Yeah,
and all the other team has to do to cover is only lose by 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
Or win.
I know minus whatever. I know a spread. I know football spreads. I can.
Hockey and baseball are very same. Everything is 1.5 unless it's that big. If you see a line that's 2.5,
yeah, then
that's a pretty sizable favorite.
I'll take your word for it. But I feel like most SEC schools, but who has, look, UCF's pretty good. They could take Bama. I mean, if James Madison can score runs, if Carolina, boots the ball around some more,
you can mess around and find out pretty quickly.
I mean, I Vandy Coastal, that's interesting. I know Wofford's got a dude that can mash.
Wofford's top 10 in the country in batting average and OPS.
Yeah,
Wofford's nothing to play with.
No, they've got a couple of guys. I mean, you never know. But
Carriers.
It'll be it should be a good day. But again, a record 11 schools from the SEC have made the NCAA baseball tournament. Speaking of numbers and spreads and whatnot, I'd love to have another week of Southeastern Conference football spreads to discuss. And Seth Emerson reporting today from the SEC meetings that the reason the Southeastern Conference is yet to go to 9 is one we already knew. They're looking for more money from ESPN. Here's the thing, though, and I don't know how much of this is like a dare or like in poker, like, trying to get somebody to call your bluff or something like that. Seth says for now The SEC is preserving the secondary rivalries in the 24 and 25 schedules. The hope is that experiencing those rivalry games this year, especially Texas versus Texas A&M, will make everyone, including ESPN executives, unwilling to not have them take place on an annual basis. Others, by the way, that would potentially be scrapped include Georgia, Auburn, and wait for it, Alabama, Tennessee. Now, any of you who have listened to me for years know how much it's bothered me. Not that those games are played annually. I love them. But for about a decade-ish, the Southeastern Conference held up any reformation of scheduling because of 2 football games. Alabama and Tennessee, third Saturday in October, and Georgia-Auburn, the Deep South's oldest college football rivalry. Now, I've said before, play them as non-con games. Some people, including my co-host Elijah Campbell, would rather, throw up in a bucket than have that happen.
Or wipe my rear with sandpaper.
Again, recently enough, Wake Forest and North Carolina have played non-con football games. It was just announced a couple of weeks ago that Virginia and NC State would play non-con football games. But if I don't know what I'll do, but I'll be really angry if something comes along and those games screw it all up somehow, some way. It's time to go to nine. Don't.
That's the only fix.
Don't wait for Disney to say they're going to pay you more money. Just go ahead and put a better product, if you will, and not better. That's not fair. Enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing semantics a little bit.
Yeah. No.
It's not a better product. You're not improving it. You're just enhancing. Yeah, you're enhancing it.
It's inherently a great product.
Yeah.
That people will consume.
But when you give them another one, they'll take it. But in this case, if you're going to tell people that Bama, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, those are the games that you're going to keep. We're all excited. Oh, the A&M and UT are going to play again. Woohoo! All right, but that would go away. It's time to just add the game. And again, if you're worried about an odd number of road games every other year,
too bad.
Well, no, I got a solution. Go to 10.
Even better. My best solution: do all 12.
I mean,
I'd go that far.
I just
you want to schedule one non-con game, do it. But
go to 10. Yeah, I mean, Carolina, Clemson, Florida State,
extreme.
Georgia Tech, those got to stay. And then again, game 12, if you will, play Akron. I don't care.
Because what's really going to suck, and it's really going to be unfortunate when some team, let's say it's a year that Alabama doesn't have to play, like Texas A&M or something like that, a team that gets hot out of nowhere, Ole Miss, and we have a tie in the second spot of the SEC champion or the SEC standings, and one team's going to have to get in over the other over a stupid tiebreaker when forever we just settled it on the bleeping field. Yeah. We're going to have a lot of that because now you have grown to the point where you can't have everybody play everybody. You can't even play half the conference, right? Or especially if you ever expand, you're not even playing half of your own.
And that's another thing, yeah. And we can't let go of the expansion talk either, which I'm getting kind of tired of.
Oh, I've got expansion fatigue to the point where it's just not even funny. But the Big Ten's going to learn this lesson the hard way. You're going to crown champions or get people in your championship game, and you don't even play half of your league.
Right.
That is going to irk me. It's not a true champion. That will forever irk me. And this is something that the SEC can avoid, and you can still earn yourself, crowning a true title if you get to where everybody's playing 10 conference games and you're getting as close as you can to playing your entire league.
Greg Sankey said, and Seth reports, quote, now that we're in it and will experience the renewal of some of these rivalries and some of these games, that will shape some of the thinking as well. You can hear the conversation about CFP selection going through it a year. We've got some time, but not a lot of time. ESPN execs are on hand at the SEC meetings, including the president for content, Burke Mangus, who is a very big deal. But apparently scheduling discussion is not on the official agenda at the SEC meetings. Don't think they ain't discussing it on the back porch, if you will.
Better.
Again, just do it. Just do it. If you're not doing it this year, but just go ahead and do it. Somebody will pay you.
Guaranteed.
You know, you'll get your money out of it, but you'll get a better football product. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll wrap up the drive around on the other side of the break. This is the postgame show. Welcome back into the postgame show. Final few minutes here on this Thursday. Again, reminder, 1:45 airtime tomorrow, Carolina baseball, 2 o'clock-ish, first pitch, Carolina and James Madison. Eli Jones will get the start tomorrow. And just to remind you or refresh you, if you have not yet heard today, Gavin Casas is done for the season. He had surgery this morning to repair the broken hamate bone that he suffered the other night. You could tell how bad it hurt when it wasn't Billy that came out, but like gave the little like shake hand squeeze, and Gavin about buckled under, and you're like, oh,
That's telltale sign.
That's real pain right there. That's not like a ouch. It was something different. When your knees buckle, man.
When you're like physically trying to pull away.
Yeah, that was real. You could see. But they were hoping for a few days, might allow for something, even if he wasn't going to be available this weekend. I mean, if you can advance out, which again I think Carolina has a nice chance to do. But nope, the docs said you need to get this thing fixed. So surgery this morning apparently went well, and Stuart Lake told us earlier they expect Gavin to be with the team tomorrow. So he'll make the drive up to Raleigh. Just one final quick note, and then Elijah's going to quiz me again. He says it'll be easier than yesterday.
This is your redemption
I don't know. I don't know what that means, because yesterday the easiest one he gave me was really hard. Netflix and the Southeastern Conference, according to both Seth Emerson and Andrew Marchand of The Athletic. Seth, of course, is on the beat covering the conference. Andrew covers sports business and sports television. Say that, again, Netflix and the SEC soon will be making an announcement on a very comprehensive documentary series, very similar to what Netflix has done with F1's Drive to Survive and the PGA Tour's Full Swing. It would take viewers behind the scenes during the upcoming football season all around the conference. The commissioner did not want to take the bait when asked, but you got to think, between Seth and Andrew reporting this,
Yeah, it's happening.
it's happening. That'll be cool.
The SEC just didn't want anyone spoiling the surprise.
And again,
That's
I'm here to predict that maybe by 25, 26, maybe you want that 9th game, Netflix. Just saying. Drive Around the SEC is always brought to you by Herndon Chevy, your hometown Chevy dealer. Save $20,000 on new Silverados. Together, let's drive. All right, couple of minutes here to quiz me on mascots.
That's right. You were
And
over
again,
yesterday.
I'm here for the music.
That's right. And maybe getting one right. But, all of these are at least G5.
I love your confidence. Thank you.
At least G5. I think you get at least one of these.
Okay, I hope.
We're going to start with Sam Houston State in the Conference of Champions, Conference USA.
Okay, they're not the Roadrunners. That's UTSA.
Correct?
Sam Houston State. I don't know. Gauchos.
Not quite. They're the Bearcats, but spelt Bearkats.
Oh, well, sure.
Interesting spelling. They're also the third oldest public university in Texas. And per its wiki page, get this, it's, quote, one of the first normal schools west of the Mississippi River and first in Texas. Whatever the hell that means. Normal schools. It's one of the first normal schools, Sam Houston State. So, but it was
Salute.
and when they were founded, they were called the Sam Houston Normal Institute, which sounds more like a money laundering front than it does anything else. Like, hey, look, nothing irregular happening here.
I'm going to go to an abnormal school.
Notable alums, Josh McCown, Dan Rather. Number 2, Louisiana Monroe.
You know what? I know this one.
They've gone through some changes. over the years.
Yeah. Oh, God. And my good friend and high school catcher, Hollis Rogers, would be disappointed because he grew up in Monroe, Louisiana.
Tim McGraw's listening. He'd be really disappointed if you don't get it because
he's
an
probably
alum.
not, which is good. What is it?
The Warhawks.
No, I wouldn't.
Other than Tim McGraw, Tim Brando, Ben Sheets, and Doug Peterson attending, there is nothing interesting about Louisiana.
Yeah, Tim
Monroe.
Brando's cool.
Yeah, Tim Brando's awesome. Love Timmy V. Arkansas State, the school that currently has Butch Jones in exile. They are the...
It's a bird.
Is it?
Cardinals?
Nope.
No.
Not a bird.
No.
Unless a red wolf is a bird.
Ah, red wolf, not red bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The red wolves,
Darn it.
yeah, which I don't think are birds, but Arkansas
probably a
State.
wolf.
Arkansas State is the former home of Saints linebacker Demario Davis and Dolphins legend Cleo Lemon. Lastly, the newest football bowl subdivision member, Kennesaw State.
The Georgians.
While they are technically Georgians, Kennesaw State is the Owls. Shout out the Fighting Ty Penningtons from Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Well, I didn't do well.
0 for again.
Yeah. You should have asked me some easy ones, like Iowa.
South Carolina.
That would have been easier.
The
All
South
right.
Carolinas.
Maybe we'll see y'all tomorrow. Maybe we won't. Enjoy baseball.
Doubt it.